next project on the BMW Z4 M Coupe. Ever since I've got it, the screen hasn't worked properly. It's been a mess. Let's switch it on and I'll show you. Apart from not being very clear or bright, it's all like the top layer is all, it's not coming off, it's just very rough and puckered, so it's very difficult to see. So I'm going to remove it and send it away to get it fixed. I found a place that will do it, and I'll put a link in the comments below, but it's $650. Now, I could get a replacement unit. There are a number of available ones for this, but the trouble is, because this has the factory navigation, there's no screen here. So if you want to be able to see your channels, or if you want to change anything over here, you have to have this screen, because all the as far as I can tell, all the aftermarket ones are standalone and then run back through the auxiliary input in the stereo, so you wouldn't get any of the computer controls in them, and that's really what I want. I don't care about the navigation that much, and I already have a blue bus attached to this, so I can play music from the phone. So to get this out, you have to take this vent out, and I know this unit's already been taken out in the past, so the vent looks quite loose. So you take this out, and apparently there are 4 clips, 2 at the top. I can actually see one. You can see one just there. 2 at the top, 2 at the bottom. Take those out, and there's a couple of screws, and then Bob is your uncle. Well, Roy's my uncle, but Bob would be your uncle, if you get what I mean. That actually came out relatively easy, but it was very difficult to film because I needed one hand for the light, one hand for a screwdriver, and one hand to just ease this out. So there are 2 metal clips on top that you get at through here. So you put the screwdriver in, just pull this down while pulling out on this at the same time. Do the same thing on the other side. And then underneath there are plastic tabs which just need to be eased up again through here. So you make sure the vent's not in the way, you just you pull up on that or push up on that, and then this whole unit pops out easily. So the next bit is you pull this trim off. This just unclips really easily like that, and that will reveal 3 screws, and you undo those 3 screws. There are a couple of screws underneath here, you undo those, and if you do that, it should come out. This literally is a 5-minute job. It's good. And of course, because nothing on these jobs is ever straightforward, to get at the plug for this unit, you have to take the stereo out. So that's just 2 screws there, and then this whole unit slides out. So let's just slide that out there. And then that big white plug down there is the one I have to unplug. Easy, and it's like 100 degrees in the garage today. Why did I decide to do this? Oh, and I dropped a speed nut down inside the dash. So I'll explain later. Well, that takes a bit of fiddling to get off. I mean, the connector unclips with this swivel black thing there, but then the actual bit that's connected to the display screen is actually clipped into place there, and so you have to kind of slide it off backwards. And of course, 2 of the clips broke, but I doubt that is mission critical. Now, earlier I said I lost a speed clip, and that's because I know this screen had been repaired before because the motor had broken, but when it was put in, these speed clips weren't put in appropriately on the dash, and you can see the dash is all the tabs have gone. So I'm going to have to find some way of fixing that and seeing if I can get that speed nut out of there so it doesn't rattle around all the time. But that's it, the unit is out. Now, as I said earlier, like, if I could get this coating off, it wouldn't be too bad. I mean, it's intermittently not been working, and that I think is due to low battery voltage, because I put the battery on a charger and then immediately the screen fired up. It's also not very bright. $600 is a lot to pay. But if this, I guess it's the anti-glare covering. If this anti-glare covering doesn't come off easily, then I'm going to have to pay $650, aren't I? Well, look what I found in my search for that elusive speed nut. I found there's actually an access panel under here where you can get at that plug and you don't need to take the stereo out. Well, at least I'll know for putting it back. Well, I might as well put the stereo back in while I'm waiting for that screen to be repaired. So these are the two screws that hold it in, and here is the vent, which we know will just snap back into place as long as you have it the right way up. Just like that. So now you get to drive around with a really great hole in the dash. And if we switch the radio on,
now that's blocking the HOV lane. That's a
it works. So we can still use it, just driving around with a big bloody hole. And I have noticed sitting in this passenger seat that this speaker is blown. So that's another job. Well, I received back the unit that I'd sent away for repair, and it looks great. And fitting it back in was really simple. You don't need to take the radio out, you just take this out to access, to be able to put the two screws back in, and you can feed the wires down and reconnect it using this little access hatch here. Now it all looks great, and it pops up, but it doesn't work, and nothing I can do makes this work. So I did send them an email asking them if they tested it properly before they sent it back, but I know a common source of a blank screen is a failed nav unit. I have a choice. I take out the nav unit, send it off for repair. I'm going to find out how much that costs. Or I found one on eBay in the UK for £100. So I may just try that and just see if that works. That might be the cheaper option, but I really just don't want to keep throwing money at this. Anyway, stay tuned. Well, I got in the car this morning and I was actually going to take the fuses out to see if that would reset the navigation unit. And guess what happened? Well, I switched on the car, and lo and behold, we have a system that works. So this is good news, bad news. Good news is it works for the time being. Bad news is it's probably the navigation unit that's got an intermittent fault. So I think I'm going to have to pull the nav unit out and possibly have that repaired. But in the meantime, I'm going to enjoy this early 2000s system with its wonderful, wonderful navigation system. I mean, look at this. Isn't that cool? It's very green. Anyway, that's good news. And this morning, it doesn't work. So definitely time for plan B to see if it's the nav unit. Stay tuned. Well, now I've determined that I don't think that the screen is the problem and the problem is the nav unit. It's time to take the nav unit out. But of course, I've got my light, but of course that isn't something that's straightforward to do because of everything that's around it. So the nav unit is hidden behind this, so you've got to take all this off. Now there should be two screws underneath here which you have to undo. One of them was missing, the other one was virtually undone. And then this piece of trim, probably the other way around, this piece of trim was up here and I pulled it and it flew off. So I'm guessing that comes off. Now I have to investigate what I need to do next. Give me a second. Well, under that piece that flew off, there are these two T25 Torx screws, so I guess those have to come out. So let's take those out and see what happens. Now it looks to me, even though it looks like there's a join here, this is all one piece. So there's a screw on either side which need to come out. And as you can see, this bit will probably have to come out. I think this has been taken apart before based on screws missing and covers missing for stuff. Let's have a see. Undoing those two screws at the bottom enables this whole thing to lift away, and then we can pull this out by getting a special tool, which of course I don't have, but we can make one. Well, that was a bit of a faff to get out, but basically I was able to use these large garden staples. You push them through the holes, then they go into these little clips, and you can just push this down and ease the unit out. So look at this. Looks like it's working perfectly. This unit has been serviced by the group I was going to send it to, and I noticed one of the plugs was broken at the back, and I just don't think this thing was plugged in properly. That's why it was giving me an intermittent problem. So I unplugged it, waited a few seconds and plugged it back in, and that's what I got. So I essentially rebooted the system. And in the meantime, I've ordered another one from the UK. So does anybody want to buy a nav unit? This is actually good news. So I'm going to run this, see how long it lasts. So if you ever need to take this apart, first of all, you remove the cover here and then take out these two screws. There are actually two screws down here. You can probably just see the white plastic nuts that they go into. Those were missing on mine, and I think there's usually a cover that goes there. So I've got to replace those screws. Then there are two screws underneath here, and then one screw on either side, and then the whole thing lifts out. To get the unit out, all you need to do is push, like I had. There was just those pieces of wire. There is a special tool to do this, but all you need to do is push two pieces of wire in, and then just kind of push them in, because there's two metal clips, spring clips on each side. You just need to push those in a little bit, and then the unit will come out. It's very tight, so it'll feel like it's not coming out, but you have to give it a good yank, and then it comes out. This is great. I've got a system that works. So I'll have to say the previous owner was somewhat of a butcher when he did this. First of all, at some point he must have taken the screen out, but he didn't get it fixed. And he ripped all the tabs out at the front, the three tabs that the screws go into on top of the dash, so that I've got to find another solution for. So that was his first bit of butchery. Then he lost half of the screws in the back, plus he lost the covers for where the screws go. I mean, how can you possibly lose those? So I used the screws. Oh, and one of the screws was half out and one was missing, so I used this, after dropping one of the screws down inside the car, I used the screws that were useless for the front because the tabs were broken. I just used those to screw it in. So it's all back together. I'm going to take it out for a drive to see how good my nav system is. It works. I was a little worried. I put everything back together, switched the car on, and the screen was blank again. But I think it was just thinking, and the BMW screen came up, and then we have this. And you can actually see it, like it's been so faint before. So I think it's just the output cable, that it's a pink plug that wasn't properly plugged in, and that was the other thing that the previous owner broke. He broke the levers that lock those plugs into place. So I think we're good, and if it does stay good, I'm going to take it all apart and find a way of securing those plugs in place so they don't come out. So now I'm just going to take it out for a drive and see how my early 2000s navigation system works. Don't know why I'm so excited. I've just opened the window. There's a little mosquito that's been bugging me. Anyway, let's take this navigation system for a ride. Now you have to absolutely love the graphics on this navigation system. It's amazing how these things have evolved in 15 years, 16 years. This has to be the most rudimentary navigation system ever. I'll probably never use it, but just having the thing working properly